Natalie Rosen. Welcome to my studio and my Sunday check-ins. And today I'm here with my daughter Natalie.
Hello.
This is Natalie.
Hello.
So I am doing, for the month of March, I'm doing a series on women I admire. And when I was thinking about this topic, I often go, same in design, I often go with my first thought. And Natalie was one of my first thoughts.
So nice.
Yeah. And the reason for this really is, as I started thinking about it afterwards, the reason for that is because now you were born not having an easy time with things. Mm-hmm. Natalie was, well, admittedly, it was a very unhappy pregnancy and not a good birth. And Natalie started crying when she was born, the moment she was born, and she didn't stop for several years. And you would also always hold on to me at all times. Always. She always had to have like a little bit of a piece of clothing or something. Oftentimes sleep only lying on my belly. So she had a hard go of it initially. And today you're an amazingly accomplished and confident young woman. And it's that journey that I kind of wanted to talk about. Yeah. That really I find very inspiring. So, oops, kicking the camera. So, let's see, where are we going to start? Maybe with, what's your memory of your like childhood? Do you have any memory of that kind of being having a hard time?
Not really. I don't really remember having a hard time. I think when you have a certain reality, it's hard to imagine existing outside of that reality. Mm-hmm. I remember kind of feeling like maybe the way I was feeling like wasn't normal, like feeling like it can't be that everybody feels this way, or everybody is experiencing life this way, like it can't be normal. And then I remember the first time that I didn't feel that way, kind of like in my like early 20s, when I like stopped experiencing pain for the first time.
Oh my God.
But I don't really I don't really have like memories of specifically of pain in my childhood, because I think that was just like the reality of the way that I existed.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. In the early 20s. It's long.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So pain is a big one. Now we know. Now we have a diagnosis.
Yeah. So I have fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain disorder, which is caused by like misfiring of neurons in the brain that basically trick your brain into thinking that you're experiencing pain that isn't really there. That we think has been happening my whole life, which is the reason that I was so unhappy as a child. And it was a really uncommon diagnosis back then. It's like much more common now, but there's basically no way that anybody, like when I was a child, would have told you that that's what was happening. Mm-hmm. So it would have been like really frustrating for you as a parent not knowing what was going on.
Yeah, it sure was. And I would go around from, doctor to doctor, and I kept saying, like, there's got to be something wrong with this child. Like, can you, maybe she's missing an organ or something. Can you x-ray her? Can you, like, do any tests? And later on, I got my, when I got your chart, your medical chart, when we switched doctors, there was actually a note in there that they were saying likely overreactive mother or something like that. Mm-hmm. They basically thought I was nuts, which is so discounting.
Maybe a little crazy in other ways. But.
Maybe, yeah. Wow, yeah. So your experience with fear was big. With pain was big. But it did make you, I think, fearful of going out into the world on your own.
Yeah, and I think it like definitely educated a lot of the ways that I was in the world generally, and like a lot of the decision making that I had as an adult was like based on my experience of fear that I had like early on.
Yeah, that's exactly the crux of what I want to kind of get at in this conversation. But I want to just go back a little earlier, because the first step away, of course, of a child is always when you start going to school. And I think where you went to school, you just were really nurtured in that school, and they had such good kind of understanding, and at the same time pushing you probably more than I had. Yeah, that was where I first saw this kind of budding of confidence.
Yeah, this Shambhala school is really amazing. I was super lucky. I really enjoyed my entire like schooling experience. I went there primary to 12. I really loved it, and I think especially within like the arts program, I was really nurtured. Like I'm a chef now. I think a big part of that is because of that school. A lot of my like classmates have gone on to do like similar creative things, and a lot of it I think is to do with that school and like nurturing like artistic passion.
Yeah, I really felt that. And I remember at some point I tried to pull you out in like grade 10 or something.
Yeah.
And you were like, Mom, this is my family. She was pretty adamant to want to stay. So the school was a big thing. And then I wrote in my newsletter, by the way, if you're not a subscriber to my newsletter, you're missing out. I wrote in my newsletter about the fact that you went off to university right after
Much
school.
To your chagrin.
Yes, I thought she should definitely take some time off.
Yeah.
But after you went, you were determined to just keep on going and become a psychologist, and so you enrolled at Mount Allison University.
Because they had the best meal hall program.
That's right, we went there. This is a foodie thing here. That's right, we went to a few different universities.
Yeah, they had the best meal hall.
That's right. That's funny.
Yeah,
I forgot that.
That's basically why. No, they had a really good academic program.
And they were respectful of your special diets, because at that point already you were eating
I was like,
specific.
I didn't know that I had fibromyalgia at that point. I was still like pretty sick, and as part of that, trying a bunch of different elimination diets to try to like figure out my health thing, and couldn't eat like almost anything, and they were extremely accommodating.
Yeah, that's right.
They literally, I could send them recipes and they would like try those recipes for me. They were really amazing. Yeah. And that's like basically why I picked that university. No, but they were really great, and I went there for 2 years and learned a lot.
Yes, and then you quit.
And then I quit.
And so I also wrote about this in the newsletter, that you did an analysis where you went, okay, what do my grades need to be in order to actually become a practicing psychologist, to get it into the master's program, and then what else do I need to do? And you did the math, and your grades weren't bad, I don't think.
No, they were good.
But the statistics or something, and you just did the math, and you went, this is not going to happen. I'm never going to be a practicing psychologist. I'm out of here.
Yeah. And I kind of, I like to talk about the sunk cost fallacy, which is if you're walking to a store and you figure out that store is closed, do you keep walking to the store when you're halfway there, or do you turn and walk to a different store that you know is open? And I made that decision to turn and start walking to a different store, because I knew that wasn't an option for me. My math just like really wasn't strong enough, honestly.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
Very confusing.
Yeah. And especially being in like a liberal arts university, where like math is not, like the math programs are not the strongest, and the support for those programs aren't the strongest. Like, it was really hard.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a, not quite, I mean, it wasn't your thing.
No.
Yeah. I remember trying to go through learning spreadsheets with you, and you were like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think it was a good choice. And then for a little while, you were kicking around the house. You came back home, and at some point, I kicked you out. That's how I experienced that. Yeah, I was like...
I had some personal stuff going on, too. I was, like, pretty depressed.
Yes.
And I think you probably got a little sick of me sleeping all day.
Yeah, I was working hard already at that time, and I was like, this is not...
And I had been working the whole time. Like, I had been working pretty much from the time I was, like, 14. I was a potter's assistant. And I was working in cafes all through high school. And I'd saved up quite a bit of money. And I decided to go traveling. And I booked a one-way ticket to Iceland and dropped out of university in kind of the same week. And went traveling.
Yes, and that was, there were some huge challenges there, I remember. You just, like, you remember that, like, when you had to figure out, you had to overcome a lot of fears when you were traveling, like, when you were in the dorm room and you were, like, so scared, but then you just figured it out.
Dorm rooms in, like, London, England, like, mixed dorm rooms are scary places.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely, like, I had only ever traveled with my family. We were really lucky to, like, always, you know, we'd been to India and, like, traveled to some, you know, some places where I'd say traveling is harder, but traveling alone is definitely, like, a scary experience at 19.
Yeah. You also had, I mean, you overcame a lot of fears there, and you did it. And part of that was planning it really well.
Yeah, and that's always kind of been something that I've done to kind of combat anxiety, is that I'm like a planner.
Yeah.
So if I can, like, plan things out really well and be really organized, that definitely helps to, like, ease some of that stress for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then... So, yeah, so that was impressive. You went to a bunch of other places. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I went all over Europe. I had, like, ended up going to, like, 17 different cities all over Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was really, it was great.
And then, so... You ended up in Leipzig, which is actually near where my father's family is from. But on the way, and then in Leipzig, I should say, you lived there for a while.
Yes.
And it was on the way to Leipzig that you were in London and visited the Cordon Bleu.
The Cordon Bleu, yeah.
Kind of changing.
Yeah, everybody had always told me that I should cook. I had always done it kind of as a hobby. The cafe that I worked at, yes, because my mom is an excellent cook, of course.
Well, because I also
the cafe that I had worked at, I had always, like, made the soups, and I was in charge of, like, the gelato program, and made all their gelatos, and, like, I was always, like, making macaroons at home, and, like, doing all kinds of, like, cooking at home, and everybody was always like, oh, you should bake, you should cook. So it was something that it was, like, always in the back of my mind, but not that I was, like, money over everything, but I always, like, imagined a life for myself that was, like, just, like,
less work.
No, not less work, because I don't think, like, in this world that I imagined for myself where I was a psychologist, it wasn't less work, but it was definitely probably more money for the same amount of work.
Yeah. Less physical work.
Less physical work. Yeah, you know, I wanted the doctor money. And I, like, imagined that life for myself. And, yeah, I didn't want to work on my feet all the time, but I kind of, like, felt a calling to go visit the Cordon Bleu, and I set up a time to go because I was in London, and I went, and I was like, this is my place. Like, I felt, like, this real feeling of, like, home and community, like, when I walked through the front doors. And I left, and I was, like, literally crying because I was like, this is, like, where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
But by the time I got back from my trip, like, around Europe, I had kind of realized that it was, like, a $250,000 degree for a cook's job that wouldn't make very much money. I'd, like, done the math.
You've done the math? Yeah, you did the math. That's right.
Yeah. So I was like, maybe that's not the best use of my money, and I kind of wanted to, because I'm like a pretty like research oriented person, I kind of wanted to like make sure I was making the right decision, and because I'd already pursued a degree and like felt like I had made the wrong choice once, I really didn't want to make the wrong choice again. So I got a job in a breakfast kitchen doing like brunch. And then my favorite restaurant in the city, which was just like 1 year old at the time, where I'd like loved to go all the time, was hiring, and just like on a whim I applied there because I thought everybody who worked there was like the coolest people ever, and I thought that this like the food was like the most innovative in the city, and I didn't think in a million years I would get the job, but I knew how to write a really good cover letter, and I got the job.
You were passionate. You had actually already started writing that letter as they were then posting the job posting. I remember you calling me and being like, "What should I do? Now they're posting this." I'm like, "Send it."
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had already started writing the, and then they happened to post the job posting.
But then you also, I mean, there was a trial. There were 3 people. They had 3 people in that they tried out, and they picked you.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't remember that.
Yep. Huh. Yeah, they definitely had different people in. So that's why you still cook today.
6 years later, field guide.
Field guide
on Gottingen Street.
That's right.
Come by.
We love it. Yeah. Excellent food. And you've worked your way up there from, of course.
Yeah, I started out as like a really green cook, very new. I literally had to be taught how to cut green onions. Thank you, Dan and Justin. Didn't know a single thing, and I am now the head chef there. So yeah, really worked my way up. Took a little break to go cook in New York.
Yeah, I really want you to talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about courage.
And came back because that's what I do.
Yeah, no, that was really amazing. So New York. We drove. Natalie saved up enough money to buy herself a car because she knew she needed one. This is upstate New York.
Yeah.
For this very, very exciting gig. Wait till you hear about it. And I drove down with you and then flew home because that was a long trip for somebody with a relatively new license. So, wasn't it?
No,
for some reason I came
new car, but I didn't want to drive the whole way to New York by myself.
Okay, ballot. Sorry, apologies. This happens as a mother. So I watched you walk into that door on your first day at Blue Hill at Stone. What's it called?
Stone Barns.
Stone Barns. Dan Barber's restaurant, who's a Michelin star chef. 2 Michelin stars. And you did a 1-month stage there. And would you say that's the hardest thing you ever did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you came back a different person.
Yeah. It was like definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Mentally and physically just like grueling and exhausting. Really like pushed to my absolute limits and like more, and really like learned what my limits kind of are, and what I'm capable of, and came back really appreciative of like what I have, and like especially in terms of like my work environment and my colleagues and my bosses, and like you know, the restaurant that we have set up here, and just how like kind we are to each other. Yeah. Because that experience was like really, it was like put through the trenches, so to speak.
Yeah.
It was intense.
But you also were actually able, like I was really impressed when I heard your stories of how you contributed there. Because Dan Barber would ask, like, what did you think of this? Or how can this be improved? And you would actually speak up. Like, you improved one of their cracker recipes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's a scary thing.
Yeah, I think that I was actually talking about this the other day, because I don't come from like a traditional Like, I didn't go to culinary school. I don't have, like, traditional culinary training. Um, all of my knowledge just comes from experience, and it gives me, like, a very unique lens to look at things through, and it gives me very unique perspective and insight. And it means that I'm very good at some things and not so good at other things. And I think recognizing the ways in which I'm able to, like, contribute and the things that I'm, like, better at than other people is really important, because I need to be able to, like, use those things to my advantage. And in that situation, I just, like, had knowledge from a specific experience that I had where I was able to
That's right,
apply it that you would never learn in culinary school.
That's right. Yeah, because we were eating that way at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Good. Well, that's your journey. Now you're there in that restaurant. It should be said that since this is the month, Women's Heritage Month, Field Guide is now 100% women owned and
operated.
Yeah. So you have some male chefs. Yeah, I mean, what do you call them? Cooks.
Male cooks, male head bartender.
Right. But you run the kitchen and
I run the kitchen.
Katie
My bosses are women.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
It's great.
Yeah, my company, by the way, also all females. I do almost everything, but I have Chantel behind the scenes and Jessie. Those are the people that support me. So happy celebrating of women. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of you too.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're going to say goodbye and try to figure out how to turn this off.
Bye-bye.
Bye.